Hello everyone, it's Karen at the Cool Tool Studio, and today I'm going to be showing you a simple beginner's project where we're going to be flush setting a stone in metal clay. In this pendant, we're going to be cutting out the shape of a state and then using a little stone to mark a city. Here's what you're going to need for this project: a wonder roller, some cool slip, a work surface, and tough cards, a 2mm stone that can be fired, some tweezers, a hand drill with a drill bit, a clay perforating needle, a precision hole punch, a 2mm stone setting burr, and a state template. Some clay thickness rolling frames, a wick away with a brush, some sanding pads, Easy 960 sterling lump clay, a texture tile, and a snake maker. We're going to start this project off by determining how thick our pendant needs to be. With a flush setting, the top of the stone is supposed to be level with the top of your metal. So we want to make sure that when we're rolling our clay, it's thick enough to accommodate our stone. I'm going to be using a trick that I picked up from Lizelle when she was visiting us, and I'm going to use a snake maker and run it over the top of my stone. And you don't want the stone to move. If I were to swap this out and go down for a 4 cards thickness, you'll see that the stone is moving. So that's not thick enough. So my pendant is going to be 5 cards thickness, but I'm going to texture down. So I'm going to start off by rolling clay to be 6 cards thickness. I'm going to scoop my stone off to the side here, and I'm going to get some Easy 960 clay. And before I start rolling, I'm going to apply some Cool Slip. I'm going to spray from about 9 inches away, and that is plenty. You want to make sure you don't use too much lubrication because it will eventually contaminate your clay. So I'm starting off by rolling to 6 cards thickness. And now I'm going to pull in my texture and roll down to 5 cards thickness. I'm again going to be applying some Cool Slip. And then I'm going to look at my texture and kind of see what my favorite part is, what I would like to be on my pendant. And I really like this area up here. So now I'm taking my 5 cards thickness, placing it on top of my texture, and I'm going to roll once again. Now I'm going to move my clay onto a tough card to cut out the shape of my state. And if you'll notice, I'm working with a fine line texture here. It's not super dramatic with the rises and falls of the texture, and that's because it would be difficult to set a stone on a texture that was very dimensional. So I really like the subtlety of this one for this project. I'm again going to kind of play around with positioning and see what I like best. And for this project, I'm actually going to be using a clay perforating needle. And it works really well for this because there are so many little fine details that the thinness of this needle helps you get a nice precise shape. So I'm dragging my needle through the clay. I'm not exerting a lot of force down. You're just kind of following this edge. And whenever I cut corners, I like to cut into corners. I find that it's easier to get a nice sharp shape when you come towards your corners. So now I'm going to remove all this excess clay. So I'm ready to punch my hole. I've got a precision hole punch, and I'm working with the smallest 2mm punch that we have. And I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle here because it's what our jump ring is going to hang through. And you don't want to get it too close to this edge because not only are you going to sand it and remove material, but you want it to be low enough that you don't have to worry about it wearing through. So about there looks pretty good to me. I'm going to punch, twist, and pull straight up. So I'm going to allow this to dry, and then I'm going to come in and sand that edge. So I have another Indiana here that I've already cut out and allowed to dry, and I'm going to talk about sanding now. So I'm starting off with my super fine since I'm just cleaning up an edge and don't have a lot of material to remove. When you're sanding, it's good to remember to support your piece by the edge that you're going to be sanding. This piece is pretty thick and fairly flexible, but you do run the risk of breaking your piece if you don't support it while you sand it. I'm going to go around this entire edge with my super fine sanding pad before going around it again with my ultra fine and then my micro fine. And that's just going to bring my surface up to a really nice shine and really clean up this edge beautifully. I'm just finishing up this edge with the micro fine sanding pad, and then I'm just going to quickly go over the top of everything. And that's just kind of burnishing at this point, and that'll help your surface shine up beautifully once it's fired. I'm going to take all of this dust and reconstitute it. So now we're ready to set our stone. And again, I have a 2mm CZ, so I want to start off by making a hole where my stone is going to be set. And I've already kind of marked with a pencil where I want my hole to generally be. And you want to make sure that the drill bit that you're using at this point is not as thick as your stone or it'll fall through. So I usually just kind of place it over top and look straight down and say, yeah, there's plenty of room on the edge there. So these hand drills are really amazing because you can store the bits in the back here, and then you just rotate this to put the drill bit in and out and tighten it. So it's a really convenient tool. So I'm going to take my hand drill and kind of straight up and down, figure out where I'm going to be, and then really gently twist with some downward pressure. It doesn't take a lot of pressure here. I'm going to pull out and check to see if I'm through. Almost. So at this point I'm going to kind of float it. And now I'm all the way through. So that's going to allow some light to come through and for my stone to have some extra sparkle. Now we're ready to set our stone. And I cannot stress enough that you want to take this slowly. And it's going to be a kind of remove material and check, remove material and check. Because it's really easy to accidentally take away too much material and then your stone will be loose. So you could put this in the hand drill at this point, but I kind of like to be able to just see straight around it without the obstruction of the hand drill. So at this point I just use the stone setting burr. And this profile matches the profile of my stone, so I'm using a 2mm burr for my 2mm stone. Again, I'm straight up and down, and I'm gently twisting to remove material. And that didn't look like much, but I'm already going to check it just to kind of see how we're doing. I'm going to grab an extra brush here to kind of dust it out. And then it's a great chance for tweezers if you've got them laying around. I'm going to set it in and see how we're doing. See, we're already close. It's almost sitting there flush. So I'm just going to remove a tiny bit more material. Maybe one more twist. And then a really good test for this is to put the stone in and then turn your piece upside down. And if it's falling out, then it's going to pop out when you fire and the clay shrinks. So I'm going to kind of press down, try to put it in there level. We're going to flip it upside down, fell out. So we need to cut a little bit deeper of a seat. I also do like to dampen my clay when I'm going to do my final setting. So if it looks like it's sitting flush here, I'm going to dampen my clay before I push the stone in. Alright, so that's looking pretty level. And he's good to go. So I'm going to pop him out. And I'm just going to dampen that area with a little bit of moisture. And this is just going to give a little bit of material to kind of soften that edge and squish around, as technical as that sounds, squish around your stone. So I'm placing it in. I'm using the flat back of my tweezer here to kind of push it. Make sure it's sitting level. And that looks really good to me. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna fire it on a kiln shelf at 1675 for 2 hours. Here's my finished piece. Once it was fired, I darkened the low areas using our patina gel, and then I tumbled it to bring it up to a nice shine. I had a lot of fun making the state pendant, and it was a really good opportunity to practice my flush settings. Flush settings are a really simple way to incorporate stones into your jewelry, and I hope that you feel like you can give them a try. Thanks for watching.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.